I know you guys are at home and you're going, this lady's talking again. Yes, I am. You're welcome. This is your way for you to get to know people while you're at home. So you can say to yourself, hmm, I saw this lady on her podcast, Leslie Norris Townsend. I liked her. Maybe I want to send my grandnephew to her clean comedy challenge. Maybe I want to start comedy and I want to go. Whatever. You're going to get to know little snippets of the huge talent that is Leslie Townsend Norris. Leslie Norris Townsend. Look her up on Wikipedia and stuff. You have no idea all of the legs of her comedy career. She's a full entertainer. She's not just a lady slinging jokes up there. I went and saw her here in Vegas. I was blown away. I mean, I sling jokes. I sing little ditties on stage, but not like she does. You want entertainment? You don't need to go when there's a bunch of other comedians on stage. Just go when she's on stage. She's the whole package. Let me read you this little intro she sent me. If I can find out where my photos are on my phone. Here it is. Okay. Anyway, whether booked at a I don't read real good. Whether booked at a corporate function or as the opening act for superstars, yeah, you heard it. Leslie brings her unique blend of church clean club funny comedy material. That's why major corporations like Shell, Mattel, Mobil, Pepsi, and more have chosen Leslie as their featured entertainer. Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. I'm not talking about some wannabe. No. Leslie's 30 plus television appearances. Did you hear that? 30 plus TV appearances include the following: Comedy Central, woo, AFE's, An Evening at the Improv, and sketches seen on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. She has even been a grand finalist on Star Search. You guys, welcome her to the stage. You don't want me boring you trying to read without my glasses. Let's
and
welcome.
Dry Bar, they can look me up on Dry Bar Comedy. Yes. Leslie Norris Townsend.
Yes, let's do that. I've got my subscription to Dry Bar. I'm right here in Vegas where there's two Dry Bars, two wise guys. You gotta support Dry Bar. Best comedians get on there. Pretty clean comedy, but Leslie's church clean. So there you go. Let's do this. Let's bring her to the stage.
But right I'm not now. A nun. I'm not a nun.
What?
I'm not a nun.
We'll have none of that. Let's bring her to the stage right now before I go on too long. You guys, give a big round of applause. Let me hear it. Psychologically, let me pretend to hear it. Leslie Norris Townsend. Woo! Hi. Hi, Leslie.
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me?
I'm doing good. I hear you better when you back up a little.
Okay. Or how about if I talk like this?
That works. That will work.
My voice.
You've done so much. We've only touched on a little bit of your career. And I get it. We're not here to even talk about your career today, right?
Right. Absolutely. I've been doing this for almost 30 years-ish. And for a comedian that starts out at 20-ish, you find different legs to your show business career, starting out as a stand-up, maybe doing some television, maybe doing commercials out in LA, doing some TV stunts. I worked at Disney World full-time for the first 5 years, and I opened up Broadway shows, things like that. But you just change as you move on to the next leg of your career, trying to find how can I fit in. And you saw me in Las Vegas, so I'm performing again since my children got out of got out of the house, which I raised my children. I had a career before the children. So I understand how women or people, it's very hard to go back to stand up or do stand up if you haven't had a base started, because it takes, Linda, it takes at least 10 years to get your first 30 minutes to 45 that's solid, at least. So people ask me, how do I sidestep it? Oh, I'm going to get there faster. But the truth is that I don't care how talented you are, it still will take you that long to find out your core and your voice, even if you're over talented and a great writer and a great performer. And if you're a woman, it's probably going to take you a little longer because it's harder for women to get on stage, especially if they have families and children. So this last 10 years, I got back doing stand-up again after I had been gone after raising my children for about 7, when they were old enough to leave them. And when I came back to the show, when I came back to stand up, I had to I didn't start over, but I had to, most of my material was single and all, how you write who you are. So I started doing open mics. I was living on the farm in Ohio. And so I started going to Chicago, and I had some friends up there, and I was doing some open mics. I also during that time, I had a TV show on NBC Lima where I was the host, and I also wrote it. So you just find out how you can put your talents to wherever you're at. It ain't over no matter where you're at, just as long as you figure out how can you be productive in your talents. And I enjoy giving back too, just like you are doing your podcast, which is phenomenal. That's so wonderful. Because I always think it's never over. You just move to the next thing. As long as you can walk and get into your car, you're doing good. So you need to do it before you can't walk and get back into your car, So I started going to Chicago and doing open mics and writing new jokes and stuff. And I was so shocked, since I had already been a headliner touring when I was younger for the first 10 years of my career. I mean, I had the career for the first 10 years, and then I had the children, see? So I was working, and I just couldn't believe how dirty the clubs were. I just, and in the olden days when I started, you could be dirty. You could be some of these comics that are dirty, but they still had a clean act. And their dirty was not even close to what was at these open mics. I would go, on with 10 people, and I get 5 minutes. And I never tell them I had done stand-up because, I just say I'm a housewife or something from Ohio. And then they feel sorry for me and put me on. And I just couldn't believe half the stuff they were saying. I didn't even know what it was. That's how far out of it I was. I was just raising my children. And I just felt like, unless you've got a Netflix special or live in LA or New York, and you are young, because young is always better than old. I hate to say old is bad, because old is fabulous because you have all your experiences, and you're probably a better writer, and you're probably a better performer. But they do like young for television and that kind of stuff. So unless you're really old, now really old is good too, and really young is good. It's in the middle we get mushed up. You watch America's Got Talent, you see, if you're really old, you'll do well, or if you're really young, you'll do well. But if you're in the middle, or if you fire eat or do magic or something like that, you have a different skill set. Unicyclist. So I started doing these things, and I just thought, nobody's training these kids or these people on how to work clean, and they can make a living working clean, because of course corporations, you must work clean, and even facility, all these little places, if you were doing a church or if you're doing a moose, even a moose, unless even they would like you to be PG-13. You know, they don't want you to be really over the top dirty. So, and the language, they don't like the language. So if you could learn how to do that, you could open up a door for these young people. And when I say young people, I don't mean young people like they have to be young. I mean, young comics could be old. Because I wanted to, that's the other thing I noticed, Linda. I applied for a couple of festivals, which my Clean Comedy Challenge is not a festival. I limit it to 30-ish people. So it's a very small group of niche, you eyeball, you get critiqued, you get, you meet people, there's a gig, there's money, but there's really, it's a nice environment so that you don't feel bad about you're at any level. I don't audition anybody for the Clean Comedy Challenge. They just pay the fee and they're in. So, so anyways, I'm pushing ahead. Where was I? So back at the Chicago. So what I wanted to do was kind of open a door to these opportunities, but I didn't really know how to do it. So I was doing a television show in Lima and I had a lot of sponsors and I had missed my old friends in LA and New York. And because, I had a career before I became some kind of farmer or whatever. And, and I said to, I, I, I missed them. I missed the camaraderie. Because, comedy really is about connecting to somebody who fills your passion of some sort. And I miss those people because in the middle of a cornfield, those people don't know show business. They just think you're a hooker in a bar or something. They have no clue. You're a clown. Like I was at church and somebody said, "Oh, I heard you were a comedian. We're doing a clown ministry at the hospital." And I said, "A clown ministry? What does that mean?" "Oh, we put white face and we have a big red nose and we wear red." I said, "I'm not putting none of that on my face. I'm not a clown." Because people they just don't know. It's so remote and foreign. So I started this thing because I got some sponsors and I had the hookup to television. And I started this thing called the Clean Comedy Challenge 14 years ago, believe it or not. Is that this? I mean, this is the 14th year this year. And it was just little, and I gave away $100, and I had my friends from Chicago drive down, and I had one of my friends, Dennis Regan, came out from LA, who is big time stand. These were all my very dear friends. And it's so funny that the first 3 years we did it out of Lima because that's where I had the job. And I got a lot. Geechee Guy came out and all my friends from LA-ish, and I would fly them out. So this is why I started having to charge more, because their insight was invaluable to somebody like that was starting, or even if they were a feature or an opening act, just to open the doors and answer questions and private small critiques. And they not only was it a complete success from the beginning, but that I felt good about opening those kind of doors for other people. And I was giving a service back to my people. And my dearest friends that do stand up loved it because like Geechee, he talked for an hour about how he started stand up and all this stuff. And he loved it that he didn't even know he could do that because it wasn't stand up. They were just telling their story, where they started, how it all transpired. And they, like, a lot of them thought I could write a book after that. They just loved it. And then I would add a couple more veterans involved. Like I had a couple guys come up from Miami one year when we were doing Atlanta. That was the other thing. I do different towns all around the country. So if there are people that start coming to the challenge, every time they come, it's going to be a different set of veterans, different expertises, and a different doors opening, and different clubs or different venues. So they get a different idea. And it kind of was for the old people, I've noticed, it was like a bucket list thing that they got to be acknowledged that they could do comedy and be helped even at any age, at any age. And I brought these couple guys up from Miami who had done one of my, Bobby Kelton had did 40 Tonight shows. Okay, so just think of 40 Tonight shows working clean. 40 times 7 minutes. And here he was so grateful that he could help or impart his wisdom. Because we don't get the chance to hear these things. So and it was selfish too, because I got the biggest kick out of the whole thing. I mean, it was, I hate to say it was selfish, but it was selfish because I really loved, all I talked to was farmers. I mean, they don't know this kind of talk. And I was starting to, act crazy, because if you're all by yourself in the middle of nowhere, you just start talking to yourself. And people would think you're crazy, which I could have been a little crazy, and I maybe still am. So that's what I started doing, this clean comedy challenge. And this will be my 14th year. We have been every place. We've been to Chicago several times. We've been to LA. We've been, my friend that's the other thing. I used to play the Ice House all the time. That was my home club out in Los Angeles. That's where I first got my first job. And so I knew the owners of all these places, but I never in a million years, I didn't know they liked me that much. I mean, I didn't even know, because I was just trying to get ahead, trying to get a show. Just, I was never a big star or anything, but I always worked. I never had to wait tables. I always was working in the business. And so when I decided to do this, and I called up Bob Fisher at the Ice House, and I said, can I bring in about 30 people? And we would do 3 nights of shows plus a competition. And then, of course, when I go to LA or Vegas or wherever, I've never been to Vegas with this thing. So maybe next year, But we have been to Reno, and we've been to Atlanta, and we've been to St. Petersburg, Florida. And this year in Nashville, of course, Nashville 3 times. We've been there 3 times. And, and then COVID happened, and it got a little dicey, the whole thing, because, I thought, should I drop it? It was very hard. We did do it the first year with masks, and you know how hard that is. And then everybody started Zooming, which was like we're doing, which isn't really, you need feedback for a comic. You need to hear the laughs. We aren't DJs. We're not radio people. We can't just laugh at our own jokes.
I can.
But you need strangers laughing.
Yeah.
So I thought this was, so I didn't drop it. And it was, we got through the COVID thing, but it was very hard even coming back, because stand-up was changing so much with these podcasts. And the stand-up of 10 years ago is a little bit different, although in reality you still must get a lot of laughs per minute. You must get, I'd say, 6 laughs a minute. If you can get 5 to 6 laughs a minute, and that's probably not enough for the olden days.
Yeah.
Because those now, I'm not a comic that does that rapid fire stuff, but there are those guys out there that can do that machine gun punchline thing, which they work all the time. So you don't even have to have a personality. You can just talk, and it's funny, But for people starting out, too, they think it looks so easy. We make it look so easy. And it's really probably the hardest thing you're ever going to do is stand up. Anything. I think being a doctor would be way easier, because, you would just get your degree, and somebody would hire you for 10, 15 years, and you'd be, making a living, getting your insurance, getting a new car. And, when you do stand up, it's a gift of, it's a love. It's a love for maybe it helps you deal with life. It's also helps all that inner passions, but you really have to find joy in the journey of the stand-up. So the Clean Comedy Challenge is how I've managed to connect with the young people again, and then help old people or even feature acts who are working too clean, that they want to do the next thing. You really have to have, I'd say, 45 to an hour clean. Now, if you start clean, you can always get fuzzy if you want to. But if you start dirty, it's harder, because people it's like crutches. It's like a magic act. They're putting a trick in that the F-bomb, that's a trick. So if you can write a joke without the F-bomb, maybe if you did a Netflix, maybe you want to put it back in. I don't know. But at least for people over 40, it's a good way to make a little bit of money, or maybe a big living. You just don't know. I'm surprised that I shouldn't be surprised, because I work hard at keeping my job, my act working. But I'm still working. I mean, I am still working now. I don't make like I used to make, but I don't put the stress on myself either to have to work that much. Even though I drive a really old car. You see, you have to decide, Linda, what's your priorities? So if you want to go to Hawaii every year with your husband, okay, that's your priority. But if you want to do stand-up, you take that Hawaii money and you put it towards your stand-up. That's the way I look at the Clean Comedy Challenge. People say, well, it's expensive. Well, I don't have that many people, and you're going to meet relationships that will be forever, really. I met you because of Heather, Heather was in Nashville, and was hooked up to a lot of New York comics, because she was from New York, and I met her at an open mic. You see, it's all relationships. So in Birmingham this year, we're going to have a couple agents are going to come out, and we have 3 headliner comics that are quite accomplished and are still working. Some, there's a lot of work on cruise ships if you have 2 hours of material. But even there, I don't think, maybe you can do language, but you really have to have at least 45. That, when they say 45, it's not really 45. You really need about double that, in case what's working isn't working. So you can pivot to that. So that's why I'm doing the Clean Comedy Challenge. And I can't begin to tell you how it's given me back exactly what I've given to them. And I think it's the ultimate joy for me to see some of my students excel and become stars.
Wow.
And some of them are doing very, very well. In fact, my first Clean Comedy Challenge winner was Johnny W., who is now on the Nate Bargatze tour. So he is getting and he's doing the podcast, and he's getting all these things. And he won my challenge 13 years ago. How do you like that?
That is such a cool thing. Wow.
Yes. And a lot of times, and of course, most of my winners are all working, but they tell me, Andrea Kaspari, who's out of Kansas City, she is on the board teachers tour now, and she won my challenge in LA, and she told me that it just skyrocketed her to the next thing. So yeah, we have a tape. We do our little tapes, and they're all little sets. Every night, all the contestants or the participants get to perform. And it's a camaraderie too. It's not just, it's really not a contest. I only put a contest in there because, Linda, people don't bring their A game when they don't have any skin in it. And I also found out that when they don't pay, they don't put their skin in it either. They flake. And if you come to the challenge, you got to be ready to rock. You've got to be ready, or to be able to improve, because people are different levels all over the place. But I'm shocked every time I do the challenge at the level that comes, because they're ready, they're good. Nobody's bad. To tell you the truth, okay, a couple people maybe. No. But you know what? Even if they are not quite good, guess what? In 3 years, they come back, they could win. Or, it gives them the impetus to do the next thing. So
And
that's
if they're not very good, but they're staying true to clean comedy, eventually they will get good. But they could take a shortcut and be dirty and get funny, but they're not choosing that.
There's no shortcuts. They never use the word shortcuts. Even if whatever you are, it's no shortcuts. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. And you have to decide what the priority in your life is about stuff. So if you really want to be a great comic, you probably won't have a new kitchen. You might not even have a toilet that flushes. But if you get a gig and you go up there and do 20 minutes and hear that, this is what you're doing. And in the beginning, there is no money. Or no, if you have a support group at home, that's really great. But really, you can't depend on your home support group. Because you must be funny to strangers. Not to your family. Of course, my family, they never has thought I was funny. In fact, my kids would always say to me, "Mom, I can't believe they're paying you for that stuff." They just, so I don't even do jokes around any family members. They would tell me, Leslie, that little skit you did.
Exactly.
Or how did you start out? Or it's such, people can get to stand up in all different ways, but it still takes a devotion, I'd say at least 7 years. What do you think, Linda?
10. I'm going with 10.
Well, 10 is for a headline, but 7 years, you could maybe have 20, 30 minutes, maybe. That's if you're working a lot. Mm-hmm. If you're only doing one, or, nowadays there's hardly no open mics. So if you got 3 open mics a month, that still isn't good enough, but that's what you're going to have to deal with. So I say to my challengers sometimes, go home and start your own so that you can get up on stage and you can try a couple new jokes. I try new jokes. I still, if I'm close to an open mic, I have the place in Nashville, and then I still have the farm in Ohio, but there's no place in Ohio to do this except to the cows or the chickens or something. There's nothing. It's really, and the mailman stopped coming to my house. He just throws the package on the front door saying, "I can't talk to you, Miss Townsend." Anyways, so in Nashville, if I can get to an open mic, I'll go up and do 5 minutes. I'll go up and I try not to bring the piece of paper, but because it's better if you don't have a piece of paper. But if you, even just to say it, get it out of your mouth into a microphone is important. The other thing that's fabulous about the Clean Comedy Challenge is that once I see the act, now I use them in my shows. The Lisa Gilbert that you saw in Vegas, she came to my challenge in LA. She was in the top 5 of my challenge at the Comedy Chateau in North Hollywood. And about 3 years ago, and she's a working comic, and I just called her and said I got the gig, and I wanted some dry bar people because then I could be assured they could do the time clean. But if I haven't seen it, or at least I know that you can do it, I usually wouldn't hire somebody. And
Tonight I'm
once,
on tonight I'm hosting a show and the headliner is Mary Upchurch.
oh, Mary's fabulous, isn't
Isn't
she?
she
Now she
special?
works the clubs, and she's younger, so she has a little bit better window than some people. And she's in Vegas, you see. So, that all helps. But I think she started not even in Vegas. She's just recently moved there because there's more open mics.
She's from Arizona.
Oh, is she? See, I don't know her story. She didn't come to the challenge, but I did look at her dry bar.
Yeah.
And she was in Vegas. She was living in Vegas. So, and I would love to do that, every 3 months. I would love to do I would love to do the girls' night out. I have another show called boomerbroadscomedy.com. And that's 3 women in their predicament of being a boomer. And some are a little bit young. And then I have now the girls' night out, Leslie's girls' night out, which is, I can put a younger girl in. And now, and the clean comedy challenge, I can't begin to tell you the people I use because of it.
Wow. That's a real plus for you people out there that are thinking about going to the Clean Comedy Challenge. You don't always hear the people putting on the challenge are going to be looking at who comes to the challenge to get booked by the person putting on the challenge. So that's
And
pretty
this
special.
year, Birmingham is offering, it was just a very tough club to get into. The Stardome in Birmingham is offering a gig throughout the year, a gig either featuring or opening, depending on the level, because we have to go with whatever level you're at. And I am and what oh and I'm giving $1,000 to the winner. And we usually have 30 people. Last year I went we had 30, and it was getting big, but we started out, when I first started doing the challenge, we had 14 people barely. And now last year I turned away 7 people because I just didn't want it to get too big. Because it isn't, these other contests. It's a day thing. We start at noon usually and we go to midnight. And so we're hanging together all the time. You're meeting all those people that are coming, and half of my people are working comics that will be in the challenge.
Wow.
Because they want to meet an agent, or I'll have 2 agents coming in, one from Nashville and one from Knoxville. And then the booker of the Birmingham, if you're really good, I mean, he's got a full-time comedy club, and the big room, he has a big room that seats about 500. So
What?
It's not a small room. Now we'll be in the big room on our finals night, and he has a smaller room, but it is a huge room. So I would encourage, just take a look at the website, thecleancomedychallenge.com, and take a look. And right now I have a third people already in, and I only opened it up 2 weeks ago. But I will keep it open to the thing will happen in July. It usually is in July every year, and until I'm full up, I'll keep it open until the moment. So sometimes, it's just, if you talk to anybody that has done the challenge, like Andrea says, it really put her on the map. And she came to my challenge twice. Some of my people have come to my challenge 7 times out of 14. They come every year because it's different people, it's different venues. I hope we can encourage people at any level, no audition. You have to, you just got to get there. You got to stay for 3 days. And then I'm telling you, you'll meet a whole new sphere of influence for your comedy.
Love that.
Do you have any questions?
I do. So how many nights in a hotel? The least amount of nights in a hotel? Is it 3 or 4?
You have to have 3.
3. Because
so the first, well, I do, but as I get closer, I do ask my participants, does anybody need a roommate? So that helps. And Birmingham, I hate to say it, it is very cheap for hotels.
Oh, really?
Because in LA and Boston, it was really expensive. So Birmingham, I think is, I don't want to say the word cheap because that sounds bad, but it's not half as expensive as it was in Boston in Rhode Island last year. The hotels were all almost 300. You ask those girls that came, and all those girls that came out of New York were fabulous. It was almost like the Boomer Broads plus, you know, and they were all awesome, but a lot of them were from New York, so they do a lot of open mics. So these are serious contenders. And of my tops, I think I had top 5 last year. 3 were from the New York group. How do you like that?
I like that. You know, since you have done a dry bar and the dry bar people like Keith Stubbs, etc., know you, I want you to do a clean comedy challenge in Vegas down at the new club south of
Well,
town.
you have to ask for us because I went down there about 3 years ago when I was doing a movie in Vegas. And I was downtown and I went to the Wise Guys on the open mic and I left, I have asked and nobody was, nobody. So sometimes you have to be in the loop, they don't really know me. And I don't know if Keith works, it's like a big shot at, I mean, he might own it, but it's the management.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
it's that kind of thing. So once as you never know, a lot of my little challengers, they open up a lot of doors for that. So like Rhode Island was one of my winners. Rhonda Corey opened that door for me. And then she was one of my team members that year. But she had been to my challenge at least 4 times. She won
What,
one.
what I see at Wise Guys here in Vegas is they're like people are coming down from Utah and they're used to Wise Guys up there being clean, and they come to Vegas and it's not clean, and they sit in the audience in horror. They're like, what is going on? I thought this was Wise Guys dry bar. So
Right.
if they could have an option where it's a great big 3-day splash and
Well, and
every
also we have to have access to the club in the daytime to do our sessions because we'll do sessions from noon to 5, and then we'll have 2 shows probably in Birmingham, 7 and 9, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 7 and 9. And then so that will be so it's a nonstop, like I call it, it's a comedy boot camp. I mean, it is a nonstop. That's why I really encourage people that do come, don't bring their families or if they can help it, because there's no time for anybody. Of course, they can come to the shows at night.
yeah.
And and also I have an audience vote so that one of the finalists is voted in from the audience on the first 2 nights. So not only do I have 4 judged winners, but I also have an audience vote that are all in contention for the 1,000. But you don't have to even get to the top 5 to even get some opportunities because some of my people are working all the time. They, like they're doing dry bars and they weren't even in my top 5.
Exactly. That happens.
Oh, it's always happened in my challenge. And guess what? The agent was there for the dry bar. So don't think that. And if I know these people, so if I recommend some people, but you must be ready. That's the whole deal. You never want to do anything until you're really ready. And even though you think you're ready, you may still not be ready. And it's no offense, but it just means that you just need a little more leg time. You need, because you can't sidestep stage time. It's all about stage time. So that's how the challenge is going, and I hope that we can encourage some of your friends or other people watching to go to the cleancomedychallenge.com, and maybe we'll see you in July.
I'll be checking to make sure that you have room for me March 1st, but I can't do it before then. So hopefully you'll still have room March 1st.
Yes, and it's always for a while, I before COVID, I did 3 in 1 year. I did 1 year, I did 3, and then 1 year I did 2, and COVID just stopped. Sometimes I'm thinking 1 year I may do one at Christmas time, like a side one. I might do that and invite only past participants to come, for another kind of a not a festival. I don't even like to call it a festival because I felt like when I did festivals, I was lost in the shuffle. It was so many people. Nobody talked to old people at these festivals I went to.
Thank you. That's right.
They were all young people, and I don't do, I just don't do smoke pot or anything. I don't do that. Not that if you smoke pot, you could still come to my challenge, but you just can't smoke pot at show or you whatever you do is your privacy. I don't want to tell you what to do, but when I went to these festivals, because I didn't do that kind of a hang, I was just lost in the shuffle. And I thought, well, what does it matter if I have to go to some town in the middle of nowhere for 3 days and spend $150 and nobody ever talks to me? And I barely get any stage time. I certainly don't get 3 spots. And if you're in the finals, you get another 4-minute spot. But the operative for the Clean Comedy Challenge, you must be original, funny, and clean. Because most of my judges, they know if you've lifted comedy, because we do not steal jokes. Thou shalt not steal. So it all comes. But once you find your core, like look at Leanne Morgan. She found her core, and she didn't even have to. She could read the phone book and be funny. You find out your core.
Yes.
And then once you find that, it becomes easier. Everything becomes easier. And that just is like therapy. You can fix yourself in 1 year.
I can't hear you. The last 3 things. The audio is really.
Okay, well then maybe it's over. Maybe can you hear me now?
Now it's back.
Oh, could have been some kind of a Wi-Fi thing. Could have been some kind of Wi-Fi thing. Sorry.
I blame Putin.
Yes, let's blame him for everything. With a name like Putin, you'd think who would, but then look at the other names. You go, oh, no, I'm not saying nothing. I'm not. It's better not to stay away from politics if you can. And it's better to stay away from, when I say clean, people always ask me, what do you think what is clean? And if you can do it on the Tonight Show, he has edgy people on there, but they're clean. And it's, the sexual stuff you got to be careful of. It isn't Amy Schumer's project, But the kids get away with a lot of stuff because that's who their appeal is to that age group. So, we're in a different realm. A lot of my people, like I had the America's Got Talent, a talent coordinator come down, casting director came down, and several of my people made it to the finals. I mean, almost, I think some of them got on. Now, did they win? No, but they got on. And
that's fabulous.
So thank you so much. We've talked too long, don't you think?
I want to see a video. I want you to take your phone off your aloe vera plant and go out in the fields of Ohio, and I want to see you doing your comedy to the cows.
No, because they don't laugh. And I would have quit my career if I had depended on their laughter. All they do is moo. It's not really moo. It's not really.
Thank you
so you're much. Adorable. Thank you, Linda. And I hope we meet up again and do another show.
Absolutely. And I was holding back the tears when you were referring to Geechee Guy because he passed this year.
I know.
We in Vegas miss him.
And he won more. Let me tell you, Geechee won more America's Got Talents than anybody ever, and he didn't win. He did Star Search before me. I was on Star Search, and he was on before me, and he won more Star Search uh, uh, episodes than anybody ever, and he didn't win. So, winning isn't everything. Just getting better. It's all about just getting better and better and better. And you can't look at the other person and think, well, why did they get it and I didn't? Get into your own space, into your own core. And if you work on what you do best, it won't matter what they do, because it's going to be inevitable once you get there.
And I have a piece of advice. Like, I'm very passionate about making military and veterans laugh. And I'll tell you what, when you're really connected to your passion, whatever reason you're doing comedy, your fear goes away.
Yes. Well, fear is good too, though. Fear is good, right? Keeps you, I don't care how long I do it. I'm always fearful when I do a new joke. Because it takes me about 3 times to just spit it out. I'd say, just throw it up. Like get your mouth working. So but fear is okay. But you have to, you just got to step over it. You got to, or use it to your advantage.
Yeah, people say, aren't you afraid to do comedy? No, get me on stage. I'm afraid of the rest of it. I'm afraid of the comedy business, not being on stage.
It's a hard business. Well, once really, unfortunately, when you're nobody, you have to toot your own horn. But once you get good enough, and it all starts to be placed, you almost don't. Hopefully, they come to you, but you also have to place yourself where they might see you. And these internet things, I don't think they get seen. I think you have to go where it's happening. You have to get your people, even if it's happening, like start something in, I don't know, you live in Indiana, start something. Start an open mic at a McDonald's up the street. Open it up to poetry and sing. You won't find that many comics in the middle of a farm area, but you might find, storytellers, and you just go to a McDonald's and ask them at 3:00 every Friday, can I do an open mic? It's doable to get better, but at some point you must do the next thing. And it is hard for women who have children and things. It's a very hard slog. But I really don't think I could have gone back to it unless I had some kind of success before, because it's just, somebody has to watch the kids, really.
Exactly.
So I'm going to let you go, my darling.
Thank you so much, Leslie Norris Townsend, you guys. Follow her. Tell them where you want some followers.
Oh, I have a funnyleslie.com is my website. And on Instagram, funny Leslie, Leslie. And on Facebook, it's Leslie Norris Townsend. And on Drybar, it's Leslie Norris Townsend. My special is called Outstanding in My Field. I also recently did a Grand Ole Opry channel here in Nashville called the Opry Circle TV.
I saw that with Gary Mule Deer.
Yes. And I do Huckabee on TBN. So I have a couple of those. But, it's very hard to get, there's not that many places to get on anymore. So you have to be more creative. And I know that the podcasts are the thing, but I'm not the biggest fan of them. I'm sorry. Here I am on a podcast. That's right.
I always said, hold on. I'll show you.
But I think these people are getting bored of us.
No.
We need to.
I always thought, this is what I thought a podcast was when they first came out. You take one of these and you cast it across the living room. That's what I would find fun. that kind of fun.
I think podcasts are radio. So I liken it to radio. You're just talking, and I used to work with DJs all the time, and they always thought that they were so funny. And then you'd have to come maybe open at one of these clubs, and they would just tank. And it's because they didn't get any feedback, because they were just laughing at their own, which I guess you have to do that if you're on the radio. You have to do that, right?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna let this group leave because they might want to eat or have a glass of wine.
Talk to a cow. Thank you so
Bye-bye,
much.
my darling. Thank you.
We did it. Thank you, Leslie, Norris, Townsend. Bye. Love ya.